All right, so in this lesson, we are going to be working on solving equations or algebraic equations with decimals. And so you are going to solve algebraic equations by using inverse operations and checking your answers to make sure that you have the correct value. So the first problem that we're going to take a look at is on page 368. And it says Molly bought these oranges for $7.15. She pays the same amount for each orange. Let M equal the cost of each orange. Solve the equation 13M equals 7 and 1500ths or $7.15 to find what Molly paid for each orange. So the first thing I'm going to do, if you guys recall, when we solve for a variable is we're going to get the variable by itself by using inverse operations. So here, this represents a multiplication relationship because I have a number next to a variable. So this is our coefficient. A coefficient represents multiplication. So the inverse of multiplication is going to be division. So in my algebraic work, I'm going to divide both sides by 13. I'm going to show that step. And then off on the side, right in my workspace, I'm going to just go ahead and do that because I want my algebraic steps to be very clean. I'm not going to mess over here. I'm not going to do my division problem underneath. I'm just going to do it off the side. So I have 7 and 1500ths or $7.50 divided by 13. First step is to bring the decimal straight up. Okay, so when I bring the decimal straight up, 13 is not going to be able to go into 7. 13 is going to go into 71 5 times. And so I'm going to just multiply 13 times 5. And so 5 times 3 is going to be 15. I'm going to regroup the 1. 5 times 1 is going to be 5 plus 1 is going to be 6. So I end up with 65. So I have 65. I'm going to subtract. I have 6 left over. I'm going to bring down the 5. 13 goes into 65 5 times. So I have 65. I'm going to subtract. I have 0 left over. Okay. So I'm going to go back to my algebraic expression at this point, or my algebraic equation, and I'm going to say that M is equal to 55. And I'm going to do 55 cents. Now, when you guys are doing your algebraic operation work, the class is consistently forgetting this step. You need to tell me the value of the variable. When you're solving for a variable, whenever there is a variable within your equation, you should have that variable equals and then your amount. So M equals 55 cents. So each orange costs 55 cents. I'm now going to check it by doing my proof. So you also should have your proofs when you do this. And so your proofs are going to be your multiplication. So I'm going to do 13 times 5500ths. And when I do 13 times 5500ths, that needs to equal 7 and 1500ths. So I'm just going to do this part off to the side because, again, I just ran out of room on my board. So 13 times 5500ths. I offset it. Didn't mean to offset that, so let me fix that real quick. Quick erase. Alrighty. Write 13 up above. Okay. 5 times 3 is going to be 15, so I put down the 5. I regroup the 1. 5 times 1 is going to be 1, plus 1 is going to be 6. I put down my placeholder. 5 times 3 is going to be 15. I put down the 5. I regroup the 1. 5 times 1 is going to be, let me move, screencast-o-matic, is going to be 6. And then I go ahead and I'm going to add. So 5 and 0 is going to be 5. 6 and 5 is going to be 1. 6 and 1 is going to be 7. I had 2 values behind the decimal here. So I have 1, 2. So my answer is going to be 715. So 715 equals $7.15. My answer checks. So my problem was correct for this. Okay. All right. Take a look down at your convince me on the bottom of the page. It says Molly also buys a bag of 8 apples for $3.60. Write and solve an equation to find out how much Molly paid for each apple. So we're going to let A equal the cost of each apple. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to define that. So A is going to equal the cost of each apple. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up my problem. So I had 8 apples that each cost the same amount. And when I did that, I got an amount of $3.60. So A, how I'm going to show this is I'm going to divide both sides by 8 to where A is going to equal a dollar amount. The amount that A is going to equal we're going to divide it out and see. So I'm going to have 8 divided into $3.60. Bring my decimal up, change colors for you guys. 8 goes into 3, 0 times. 8 goes into 36, 4 times. 8 times 4 is 32. I'm going to subtract. I get 4 left over. Bring down my 0. 8 goes into 40, 5 times. Into 45 times 8 times 5 is going to be 40. I'm going to subtract. I have 0 left over. So my answer is A is going to equal 45 cents. And then Molly paid for 45 cents. I'm going to do my proof just to make sure. And I'm going to do 45 times 8. And I should get $3.60. 8 times 5 is going to be 40, so I put down the 0, regroup the 4. 8 times 4 is going to be 32, plus 4 is going to be 36. I had 2 numbers behind the decimal here, so I had 2 numbers behind the decimal there. You'll notice this check did not take me very long. You actually have a little counter on there. You could go back and see how many seconds it took me to do the check. The check does not take very long. Please do your proofs to make sure that you have the right value for your variable. It doesn't take more than 5-10 seconds to do your check unless it's a really long division problem, which you're probably not going to have in this lesson. Okay, moving on to your guided practice. Okay, so number 1 says, why are inverse relationships important to solving equations? So we use them to get the variable by itself. That's why we use inverse relationships. So when I have 8a equals $3.60, the inverse relationship allows me to get the variable alone. That is the job of the inverse operations. It allows me to get the variable alone. Okay. Number 2, Johnny says that he solved the equation x subtract 3.5 equals 7 and 2 by adding 3.5 to the left side of the equation. So what he did here was he added 3.5 to the left side of the equation. Is Johnny correct? So think about it. Share your answer. Hopefully your answer matches mine. The answer is no. Johnny was not correct, because in order to solve this problem, we have to use the addition property of equality, which says whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So I had to add x subtract, hit the button, the delete button, x subtracts 3.5 equals 7 and 2. I have to add 3.5 to both sides of the equation in order for that problem to be correct. If I don't add 3.5 to both sides of the equation, I did not solve this problem correctly. Okay, so you need to make sure that you're adding 3.5 to both the left side and the right side. All right, so we're going to go ahead and do some solving. So when we take a look at problem number 5, I have 13 and 27 hundredths equals t subtract 24 and 4/5. So to solve this problem, what we're going to do is we're going to add using the addition property of equality, which says whatever I do to one side of the equation, I have to do to the other in order to keep it balanced. And I'm adding because adding is the inverse operation of the subtracting. So when I add, these guys go away, because negative 24 and 45 hundredths and positive 24 and 45 hundredths are opposites, and opposites are the same distance from the number line, so they're going to equal 0. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to add over here, and I'm just going to bring down equals t. So 5 plus 7 equals 12. I regroup the 1. 1, 2, and 4 equals 7. Bring down my decimal. 3 and 4 equal 7. 1 and 2 equal 3. So my answer that I have is 37.72 equals t. So what I need to do now is I need to go ahead and do my proof to check it. So I'm going to set this problem up vertically. So I'm going to do 37.72 subtract 24 and 45 hundredths, and I should get an answer of 13 and 27 hundredths if I did my math right. So I go and I regroup. 12 subtract 5 is going to be 7. 6 subtract 4 is going to be 2. Bring down my decimal. 7 subtract 4 is going to be 3. 3 subtract 2 is going to be 1. 13 and 27 hundredths is equal to 13 and 7 hundredths. My problem is balanced. What we're going to look at is we are going to do 17.3 added to V equals 22 and 32 hundredths. So inverse operation is going to be to subtract 17 and 3/10 from both sides. And so here I'm just going to add my placeholder. And again, these guys cancel out because I'm taking a positive number and I'm subtracting the same value, so it's going to equal 0. So V is going to equal 2, 6 decimal, 7 and 2 is going to be, oh, I added. Ooh, glad I caught that before I got too far. In the last problem, I was just in addition mode, so it's like, I'll just add here. So let's try that problem again. 2 subtract 0 is going to be 0. 3 subtract 0 is going to be, it's going to be 2. Ooh, math brain is not working right now. Try that for the third time. Okay. 2 subtract 0 is going to be 2. 3 subtract 3 is going to be 0. Decimal. Regroup. 2 subtract 7 is going to be 5. So V equals 5.02. I'm going to do my proof just to check it. So I'm going to do 17 and 3/10 added to 5.02. Add my 0 up here. So I end up with 2, 3. Ooh, that's much faster now. 7 plus 5 is going to be 12. I regroup the 1, I get 22. 22 and 32 hundredths is equal to 22 and 32 hundredths. My problems check out. I have 1 and 8/10 x equals 40.14. Divide both sides by 1 and 8/10. So x is going to equal. So again, showing my algebraic work as I go through. And then I do my division work off on the side. So I'm going to divide that by 1.8. Decimal moves over 1. Decimal moves over 1, not 2. Moves over 1, I bring the decimal up, and then I look at how many times 18 is going to go into 4014. So 18 is going to go into 40 twice. 18 times 2 is going to be 36. I'm going to subtract. I get 4 left over. I bring down the 1. 18 is going to go into 41 twice. That's going to be 36. I subtract. I have 5 left over. I bring down the 4. 18 is going to go into 54 3 times. That's 54. I subtract. I have 0 left over. So my answer is going to be 22.3. I'm going to do my proof to check it. And I'm going to do 22.3 times 1 and 8/10. 3 times 8 is going to be 24. Regroup the 2. 8 times 2 is going to be 16. Plus 2 is going to be 18. That I have is I have r divided by 5 and 5/10 equals 18 and 2/10. So to solve this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply both sides by 5 and 5/10. And then I'm going to get my answer. So 2 times 5 is going to be 10. I regroup the 1. 5 times 8 is going to be 40, plus 1 is going to be 41. So I put down the 1, regroup the 4. 5 times 1 is going to be 5, plus 4 is going to be 9. I'm going to put down my 0. Here's the nice thing on this one. Because I'm multiplying both values by 5, or both of my bottom numbers are by 5, I can just write my values over again. So I end up with 0, 1, 9. Add them together. I end up 0, 1, 1 and 9 makes 10. Put down my 0, regroup the 1. 1 and 9 makes 10. I have 2 values behind the decimal. So R equals 100.10. To check on this problem because I am running out of time on this video and I'd like to keep it to one video. So the problems that I would like for you to do is you are going to do 7 through 11 all, and then on the back side of your problem you are going to do 14, 15, 16, and 17.